Welcome to the March 18th, 2019 Frankfort Village Board meeting. We call this meeting to order, and we ask our clerk, Adam Borelli, to take the roll, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Holland.
Here.
Trustee Clavio.
Here.
Trustee Heath is absent. Trustee Kennedy.
Here.
Trustee Ogle.
Here.
Trustee Stevens.
Here.
Trustee Trevarthen is absent. Village Clerk is present. Attorney Lamore. Here. Chief Barika. Administrator Pisha. Here. Assistant Administrator Cook.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on our agenda is what we call the unanimous consent agenda. All items on the unanimous consent agenda are considered routine in nature and will be voted on after a single motion. If one of the trustees wants to discuss any of the items in more detail, we'll just remove it from the consent agenda. So I first ask, do any trustees want to remove any items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Mayor. Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Stevens and a second by Trustee Ogle to approve the consent agenda. And we do want the people in our boardroom tonight and the people on the audience on the television and on the internet to know something about the items that we're passing. And so we will go over each one of them just briefly. And the first item is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on March 4th. The second item is the approval of the bills, and who'd like to handle those? Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Our bills tonight total $2,758,718.92. Now, a little over $2 million of that is going towards our new facility that's being built for our wastewater treatment plant over north of the high school. That program is, I would say, probably 75–80% complete, and it's moving forward in a very fine fashion, and we're looking forward to that to be completed sometime later this year. We have a number of other items on our bills tonight. One of them is to the state of Illinois for $86,816, and that is for work that was done on Route 30 a number of years ago. So we all know the condition of our state, and we're just now getting bills for that project done a number of years ago. Tonight we also have a couple of rebates going to our two major auto dealerships in our town. Curry Motors, a rebate of $125,268, and Phillips Chevrolet for $80,000. This was a program that was approved several years ago where certain points were set for the dealerships, and if they made their sales goals, the village would rebate a small portion of their sales tax back to them. So the rest of the items on our bills tonight are really routine in nature. And that's all that we have from the bills tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you, Mike. And we have a number of items from our Operations Committee, and Trustee Ogle will handle those tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. First item on here, there are a couple of them that we have tonight. We had met in committees up to this point, and on the March 13th committee of Departmental Operations, we reviewed a request from the staff to authorize the execution of a professional services agreement between the Village of Frankfort and Robinson Engineering. They'll do the preliminary engineering work that is needed for our 2019 Village Roadway Maintenance Program. We've budgeted, and we've been working on this as well, that $2.2 million is going to go towards this in the upcoming year. And part of that was the sales tax that we increased recently that came to a referendum for the residents to vote on. That'll start being collected July 1st. We expect that we will see the actual money from that coming in October of 2019, and that is what we had discussed as increasing our road budgets. We were doing about $500,000 a year, and now this is up to $2.2 million. So we'll be moving very aggressively on road repairs. It was the consensus of the committee to forward the recommendation for Robinson Engineering to do this, and the motion is to execute a professional services agreement between the Village of Frankfort and Robinson Engineering for an amount not to exceed $88,000, which is about 4% of the $2.2 million. The next item on here is a Kansas Street electrical panel, and again, this has been a discussion between some cross committees between the Community Services and Departmental Operations to install 2 electrical panels down at the end of Kansas Street. And those would be used to enhance the Fall Festival, Bluegrass on the Green, and other events, special events that we do in the Historical District. 3 bids were received, and Excel Electric was the low bidder on this one. And so the motion is to recommend that we accept the contract with Excel Electric for the installation of 2 Millbank commercial pedestals on Kansas Street in an amount not to exceed $19,000. Third item on here pertains to our streetlight repairs. The Village of Frankfort owns and maintains 1,455 streetlights within the village limits. Our Public Works Department does some of the basic repairs on these, but once they get into more challenging or more difficult or dangerous things, we use an outside contractor for them, changing ballasts, performing underground repairs, and working on some high voltage streetlights. We sent out a bid request for a 2-year contract, and Excel Electric, again, came in. They were the sole bid on this particular one at the rate of $114 per hour regular time and $150 per hour for after-hour repairs on streetlights. And so the motion is to accept and award a 2-year contract to Excel Electric for the Village of Frankfort-owned streetlights in the amount of $114 per hour for regular time and $150 per hour for after-hour repairs. The final item we have for Departmental Operations Committee regards our 2019-2020 lawn maintenance programs. Where, again, we sent out a bid notice to maintain some of the village-owned lots, as well as when there's delinquent properties. We do have to go on there and maintain it. And this year there was a low budget, or there was a low bid that was rejected. It was non-conforming, and they did not provide what was needed for the minimum bidder qualifications. So this year, the motion is to reject the low bid, and then adopt a 2-year contract to Bill's lawn maintenance and landscaping for the 2019-2020 Village of Frankfort Lawn Maintenance Program in an amount not to exceed $120,025. And that's all we have for those committees tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. And then we have a couple of incentive program from our Economic Development Committee, and we'll go to Trustee Clavio for a report on those.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our last Economic Development meeting was a couple weeks ago on March 13th, and at that time the committee reviewed 2 grant applications for the Targeted Industry and Industrial Incentive Program, also known as T3IP grants. The first applicant was JCT Properties, LLC, who is in the process of constructing a new 49,500 square foot industrial building located at 22442 South Fay Drive within the East Point Industrial Park. Their application was noted that the parameters of the T3IP guidelines, and that they were eligible for a new construction grant in the amount of $1 per square foot with a maximum allowable amount of $25,000. The second applicant, Frutinger White LLC, is constructing a new 14,000 square foot industrial building located at 9516 Gulfstream Road, which is in the Airport Industrial Park. The committee also noted as well on that one, it does fall within the guidelines of $1 per square foot, and it was the consensus of the committee that we should grant the $25,000 grant to JCT Properties LLC, and it was also the consensus of the committee that we should grant a $14,000 grant to Frutinger White LLC. Before us tonight is to accept those recommendations. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. And finally, we have one item from the Plan Commission. We'll go to Trustee Stevens for a report on that.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, as he said, we have one item from our Plan Commission, and this is the learning experience located at 20970 South LaGrange Road. And the applicant proposes to construct a 10,000 square foot children's daycare facility on the undeveloped parcel at the northwest corner of Market Street West Shopping Center. Now, this is the property that's just to the west of the Potbelly restaurant there beside Bona Beef. At our to accommodate this proposed use, the applicant requests approval of a special use permit for a daycare center and a major PUD change to accommodate the proposed site improvements. This item was reviewed at our February 28th, 2019 public hearing, and the Plan Commission has forwarded a unanimous recommendation to this board to approve this project with the following conditions. Final engineering approval, staff approval of a revised landscape plan including the removal of 2 landscape islands, employees to utilize the 10 off-site parking sites, and finally modification of the grading plan to limit grading activity within the root zones of the preserved trees. Now, I do want to thank Bradford, who are the property developers of this project, for working closely with the residents to the west of this project, keeping them aware of what this project was all about, and actually taking some of the trees that were there initially as a buffer and locating them on the residents' property. So I do want to thank Bradford. I see you're here tonight, Tim, and thank you for working with the residents and for working with our Plan Commission to come up with this good project. And that's all that I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. And those are all of the items on our consent agenda this evening. So before we vote on them, is there anyone in the audience who wanted to comment to the village board about any of these particular items? Hearing none, any questions or comments from the trustees? Well, then we go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Clavio?
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next item on our agenda is the mayor's report, and the first item on the mayor's report is a swearing-in ceremony of Patrol Officer Martello. So Dominic, if you could join me at the podium, and certainly bring Allie and any of your other family members you would like. Okay, so Officer Martello was born and raised in Frankfort, and he has a sizable family from this area, and it's wonderful to have you with us here tonight. He graduated from Lincoln Way East High School in 2014 and currently attends Lewis University, where he expects to graduate with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice this fall. Following his graduation from Lewis University, Officer Martello plans to continue his education to get a master's degree. So good for you. That's great. Dominic began his career with the Frankfort Police Department as a police cadet in 2015, and later that same year was hired as a community service officer. Now these are different positions. A police cadet is essentially part of the Scout program and can literally be high school people, and they help with some traffic issues, and they help at concerts on the green and a lot of the events in town. A community service officer is an employee of the village, a part-time employee. Well, I guess we have some full-time too. Yeah, anyway. But they actually perform some, I guess we can't call them police activities because they aren't sworn police officers, but they will help with lockouts, they will help with some of the accident issues, they will help with a lot of things. So they're very important to our police department, and we have a number of representatives of our police department here, and they also learn a lot about police activities. So we're very pleased that you came right out of these positions and came along. He served in that capacity until 2017. That was as a CSO when he was hired as a full-time patrol officer. He is honored to be serving the community in which he grew up, and he looks forward to his future with the department. Well, I hope so. They're just starting. Dominic and his fiancée, Allie Picciolini, are busy planning a 2020 wedding and raising their new puppy, Badge. What an appropriate name. It's very well done. So, Dominic, if you would raise your right hand and say after me, I, and then say your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of patrol officer for the village of Frankfort to the best of my ability. You're in. Here we go. Say anything to our audience, that would be great. Come up by the microphone so that you can be heard on the television.
I would like to thank my family for all their support, everything they do for me. They've supported me 100% of the way. I'd like to thank this village and the department for giving me the opportunity. And as I just said, I will perform my duties to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Chief, any comments?
I would just quickly say he's already been an asset to the department in the short time he's been here. We are glad to have him. It's not often we get somebody who's born and raised from the town to become the police officer here, so we're very lucky to have him, and I'm sure he will have a long career ahead of him. And if he keeps going where he's at, it's going to be a great career.
Great. Thank you. Next item on the mayor's report is applications for committee appointments. Those are due by April 5th. They're available online. They're available at the front desk of the village. And committees are very important to this board. We do listen to our residents. We want to hear from you, and one of the ways to make your voice known, if you want to take a little extra interest in the village, is to serve on one of our committees. Some only meet a couple times a year, some meet a couple times a month, but we hope that people will sign up for our various committees. And finally, I do feel that I'm going to comment to Frankfort's residents about the recent shooting in New Zealand. Our thoughts are certainly with the families of the victims and the many people who are most directly impacted. I certainly denounce the prejudice and hate involved in this evil event. And New Zealand seems as improbable a place as Frankfort for something like this to happen. And with that thought in mind, I take a moment to remind our residents that if you see or hear suspicious activity that could be criminal in nature, then you really have a responsibility to contact our police department and report what you saw or heard. We need to work together to keep Frankfort safe. With that, we'll go to our police department, our Chief John Barica for the police department report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And those are great words to remember that, right, it takes the whole village to make us safe. So we need the people, not just from the police department, but people of the community to talk to us when there's issues or problems going on. And that's how we make everybody safer. Besides congratulating Officer Martello, I'd also like to congratulate Officer Riff, who just finished with the 5th grade DARE program. And thank you, Mayor, for coming out and being the keynote speaker at that. We had a great graduation last Thursday. All the 5th graders from 157C graduated and had a great time. A lot of positive comments from the parents, especially on that. So another great program that we've done for over 20 years and will continue to do. Want to remind folks, too, that we had the HOA meeting last week, and you had mentioned during that program that the police department is always available to the homeowner associations. We put that out there every year. We try to email and get them out there. Oftentimes, I don't think they want to bother us, but we are here anytime they need us. We are happy to come out and speak with them about anything, current crime trends, information about their neighborhood, or anything they want us to speak about. And as I believe you stated, we'll speak from 1 minute to 2 hours if you want us to. There's always plenty for us to talk about. Also want to remind people that if they're looking for information about crime or anything else like that, we do put out our Nixles, Facebook, and Twitter we have out there. But we also have links on our homepage back to the crime blotter that we update every week. So if you're ever looking for anything we take a case report on, that ends up on the crime blotter. They can see that, but also has links to our Facebook and our Nixle if they would like to go through that way, as well as our newsletter, which the last one out had the updates of the crime statistics that we had. And then finally, just as always, lock your doors. Do not leave your keys in your car, and take your key fobs out. Let's try to keep Frankfort safe and make it a place where people do not want to come and steal cars and break into cars. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. Good advice to our residents. Lock your car doors. And now we'll go to our village administrator, Rob Pisha, for the village administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also want to congratulate Officer Martello on completing his probation and being sworn in as an officer. It's an important step in his career. I know it's, as you are waiting to complete that probation, it seems like it's the longest period of time in your life, and once you get there, it's nice to reach that milestone. So congratulations to him, and everything I've heard about him is he's doing a great job out on the street. We've heard very positive comments with the interactions with the community. Also wanted to congratulate the police department on another successful DARE program. I was able to be there to witness it, and it is truly a testament to our community to see the involvement of the number of parents that come out to to the DARE graduation to, to celebrate the event for the kids. And it is a great interaction, and it has been a great program for the police department to have a positive relationship with the community, and it just shows with everybody that shows up just for the graduation. So congratulations once again on another successful DARE year. And then finally, just want to remind residents, as we're kind of warming up, I would have said that I don't think we're going to get any more snow, but after yesterday, when all of a sudden there was another 2 inches on the ground, but just want to remind residents to help us with, if you have a sewer grate that's in front of your house or at the corner, with the way the snow is piled up, it often collects the leaves and that kind of thing, and they kind of get stuck in the grate. So I would just ask before we get into heavy rain season that if you could clear those off for us, it would be greatly appreciated to keep the flooding to a minimum. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Rob. And now for our village attorney's report, we go to our village attorney, Hannah Lamore.
No report tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. And that brings us to the part of our meeting we call Other Business, and we'll start this evening with our clerk, Adam Borelli.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Early voting is underway here at Village Hall. Began today, and it will run through March 29th. Hours are 8:30 to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday. And then the election is on April 2nd. And if for some reason the early voting doesn't work and election day doesn't work, you can always early vote down at the Will County office building. They're open Saturday and Sunday for early voting starting this weekend as well. So all sorts of opportunities to vote in this election. So please come on out. Also, you could vote by mail still. That's still an option. And if you go to the willcountyclerk.com, you can request that vote by mail ballot. Also, you can use that website to look up your polling place if you're not sure. So great resource. I encourage you to check it out. And also with registration, it is closed, but if you haven't registered, you can still register on Election Day if you show 2 forms of ID. So even if you haven't registered, it's not too late if you go on Election Day. So, and then finally, I just want to say congratulations to Officer Martello. He'll be a great addition to the force. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. Trustee Ogle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it brief. We have an executive session afterwards here tonight, so I just really want to extend my congratulations out to Dominic, Officer Martello there. It's been wonderful to see him kind of grow up in the community and grow up as an officer as well. So we're very happy to have him, and he'll do a great job. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. And then Trustee Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, want to congratulate Officer Martello. I really remember him as a CSO officer coming to the House, and you could tell then that he was a young man that had a plan, and he has made it come to fruition. And this community is fortunate to have a young man like that on our police force. We've already received, I think, John, a couple letters from residents that are commenting on what a fine job this young man has done already. So again, congratulations to him and his family as well. You know, my younger brother was a foreign exchange student to New Zealand, and he talked often about what a fine country it was and wonderful people, a beautiful country. And it's just hard to imagine something like that happening there, Mayor. And our hearts do go out to all of those folks that suffered under this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. Trustee Kennedy.
Just a couple of things. I know Route 30 and Wolf Road are not controlled by the Village of Frankfort, but if you travel heading west down Route 30 and you want to take a left or head south on Wolf Road, I was going to Multec Eye Care, that light time in that left turn lane, it seems like only about 3, if not 4 cars max can get through. And every time I've gone through, I always see more cars going through that red. Back years ago when LaGrange Road and St. Francis had a turn lane problem where people were coming west on St. Francis taking a left, that light used to go really fast. So again, it would build up a lot. So if there's somebody, a contact we have at IDOT or somebody, just to see if they could lengthen the time of that, I just wondered if it was just me who saw it, and maybe it isn't, but I wanted to bring it up. Next, I did get an email that I wanted to share with everybody, if that's okay, Mayor, just a real quick comment. Because we had architectural grills and shades, that's the JCT property, with the incentive we did, as well as quantum topping services. Mr. Freudiger, Mr. White, both of those businesses expanding, bringing more employees to town, more jobs, et cetera. And I received an email, and it states, we're coming up on April 1st with our 1-year anniversary of moving to Frankfort. I wanted to email you how grateful we are for the village and everyone in town for their overwhelming support. The culture of the village and its residents to support local business has been fantastic. Bringing a small business and moving it 15 miles north was a big deal for us. One of our biggest concerns was how many of our key employees would follow us to Frankfort. A lot of them live in Peatone, Manteno, and as far south as Kankakee. Almost all of them did make the move up to Frankfort, and they're still with us today. A big reason was their new quality of work life. They really enjoy our restaurants, grocery stores, all the services and other businesses they were able to take advantage of while here in Frankfort. This was an intangible we never thought of. As time goes, some will be relocating to Frankfort. So thanks again for all your hard work in the village, and we look forward to our future. That was from Pete Balsoni of Same Day Teas, who's over at Laraway Center. So it was nice of him to send that, and I just wanted to share that with the community. And last, I want to thank the chief and the mayor on working on just what you said about the community and the police and Officer Martello joining us, et cetera. I think it's great to take our sales tax money as we purported and hire more police. I think that's a proper use. I know human behavior needs to change to get people to lock their cars, and we could hire 100 police, and that's not going to change human behavior. So your plan that you've put in place for these folks that we're going to hire, I think, is great, Chief. And I just want the public to know that we've got our pulse on our needs for the police department, and it's nice to have a plan that you shared with us. So thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Bob, and Trustee Clavio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will echo the sentiments to welcoming Dominic aboard. If his educational background is anything to say, he's got a really, really good start. Those of you who don't know, that's my exact educational background, but it's not about me, it's about him. Also, my respect to Dominic as well, because as we all see more and more, it's a tough profession, and less people are getting into it because they're taking more and more abuse from the public, more and more abuse from people just in general, and there's just a general lack of respect for the role. So I applaud Dominic for stepping up and staying with it, and he probably will do excellent. Welcome aboard. We're in a cross day today. Yesterday was green, tomorrow's red. So for our Polish and Italian folks, happy St. Joseph's Day tomorrow. Belated St. Patrick's Day yesterday. And then lastly, I would emphasize the mayor's point about the committees. The committees are a very important role, and I guess kind of like police officers, there's not a lot of people who apply for our committee roles. So maybe we need to get some more people out there. Our community has dynamic individuals who have a lot to offer, and I encourage all of you to step up and serve on a committee because your input is very valuable to us up here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. And now it's time for public comments. Is there anyone in the boardroom who would like to speak to the village board tonight? Hearing none, I would at this time entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session for personnel and litigation according to 5 ILCS 122C1 and 5 ILCS 122C11.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Trustee Kennedy and a second by Trustee Stevens. And with that, we'll go to our clerk, Adam Borelli, for the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Clavio? Yes. Trustee Kennedy? Yes. Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carried.
At this time, we're going into executive session for personnel and litigation, 5 ILCS 122C1 and 11.